How's it going, everyone? Austin Honecker here. I just wanted to come on here for a while and give my review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dark from last night, which was September 20th, 2022. I gotta say, it was awesome from start to finish. For the matches, match 1, it was the Dark Order, which are John Silver and Alex Reynolds versus Alexander Moss and Zuka. That was a great match, but the ending to it, the Dark Order went over cause Alex Reynolds pinned Alexander Moss with a roll-up. Match 2, it was Emi Sakura versus Avery Bro. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Emi Sakura went over with the diving moonsault. Match 3, it was the Trust Busters, which are Ari Davari, Slim J, and Parker Boudreaux versus Mike Magnum, Marcus Cross, and GKM. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, the Trust Busters went over cause Ari Davari pinned Mike Magnum with the frog splash. Match 4, it was Anthony Ogogo versus Luke Curtis. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, Anthony Ogogo went over with the pop-up knockout punch. Now, before the match, Anthony Ogogo attacked Luke Curtis from behind and executed a German suplex and beat the shit out of him before the match started and everything. And after the match, Anthony Ogogo got on the microphone and cut a promo talking about when he was born, his umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck and his face turned blue and he almost died and everything, and then talked about how his mother, who was his hero, was really bad ill and in the hospital, and he fought for her and won champions in the Olympic boxing and everything, and then talked about how after his Olympic boxing career, he could have done anything, but he decided to be a professional wrestler and signed with AEW, but within the past 14 months, he's went up against indie bum after indie bum after indie bum, but wants competition. Like legit competition, and Anthony Ogogo was talking about how he wants legit competition and how all the top guys in AEW are afraid of him and everything. That was cool. That was before the match and after the match, by the way. And that was match 4, by the way. Match 5, it was Zach Clayton. Match 5, it was Zach Clayton versus Vari Morales. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, Zach Clayton went over with the TKO. Now, after the match, Tony Schiavone interviewed Zach Clayton, and Tony Schiavone brought up about how Zach Clayton picked up a big win against Vari Morales and everything, and then Zach Clayton was talking about how the business of professional wrestling has needed an ass kicking for a long time, and talked about how he's the reality and how he's going to slap reality into everybody that gets in his way and everything. That was cool. That was after the match, by the way. Match 6, it was Marina Shafir versus La Rosa Negra. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Marina Shafir went over with the Greedy. Match 7, it was Madison Rain versus Viva Van. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Madison Rain went over with the Cross Reigns. Now, after the match, after the match, after the match, Tony Schiavone interviewed Madison Rain. Well, Tony Schiavone brought up about Madison Rain coming to AEW and how her plate's full with being a professional wrestler and being the coach of the women's division and everything. And then Madison Rain was talking about how she's been enjoying her time in AEW so far, and talking about how her plate is full, but she's proud to be a professional wrestler in AEW and is proud to be the coach of the women's division, and was talking about how she was going to turn the women's division upside down and everything. That was cool. That was after the match, by the way. Match 8. It was... Yeah. Excuse me. Match 8. It was Kylan King versus Sahara 7. That was a squash match. Wait, excuse me. Match 8. It was Kylan King versus Sahara 7. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, Kylan King went over with the pump handle facebuster. Match 9, it was Tony Nese and Josh Woods versus Balian Aki and Ryan Matthews. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Tony Nese and Josh Woods went over cause Josh Woods pinned Ryan Matthews with the Olympic Slam neckbreaker combination from Josh Woods and Tony Nese. Match 10, it was Sonny Kiss versus Joe Ocasio. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, Sonny Kiss went over with a corkscrew neckbreaker. Excuse me. Match 10, it was Sonny Kiss versus Joe Ocasio. That was a squash match, but the ending to it, Sonny Kiss went over with a corkscrew enziguri. And match 11, which was the main event, it was Matt Seidel versus J.D. Drake. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Matt Seidel went over with the lightning spiral. Now, after the match, as Matt Seidel was celebrating his victory, Anthony Henry attacked Matt Seidel from behind and beat the shit out of him, and J.D. Drake joined in, and the Workhorsemen, which are J.D. Drake and Anthony Henry, ganged up on Matt Seidel and was beating the shit out of him and laid him out and everything. And so Matt Seidel was laid out, and the Workhorsemen, which are J.D. Drake and Anthony Henry, stood tall and everything. That was cool. That was match 6 in the main event. That was match 11 and the main event, by the way, and that was after the match, by the way. Now, there were no promos or segments throughout this episode of All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dark. So, besides the matches, Taz and Excalibur done commentary throughout the whole show. They done awesome as usual. The referees for the event were Mike Posey, Rick Knox, Paul Turner, Bryce Remsburg, Stephon Smith, and Aubrey Edwards. Wait a minute, I'm sorry. The referees for the event were Mike Posey, Rick Knox, Paul Turner, Stephon Smith, and Aubrey Edwards. Okay. Paul Turner refereed the match between the Dark Order versus Alexander Moss and Zuka. Stephon Smith refereed the match between Emi Sakura versus Avery Bro. Mike Posey refereed the match between the Trustbusters versus Mike Magnum, Marcus Cross, and GKM. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Anthony Ogogo versus Luke Curtis. Paul Turner refereed the match between Zach Clayton versus Vari Morales. Stephon Smith refereed the match between Marina Shafir versus La Rosa Negra. Mike Posey refereed the match between Madison Rain versus... Mike Posey refereed the match between Madison Rain versus Viva Van. Paul Turner refereed the match between Kylan King versus Sahara 7. Mike Posey refereed the match between Tony Nese and Josh Woods versus Balian Aki and Ryan Matthews. That was Mike Posey, by the way. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Sonny Kiss versus Joe Ocasio. And Stephon Smith refereed the match between Matt Seidel versus J.D. Drake. Oh, the referees done awesome as usual. And so now, and the match card for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite's special event, Grand Slam, it's going to be Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley for the AEW title. Swerve in Our Glory, which are Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland, versus The Acclaimed, which are Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, for the AEW Tag Team titles. Pac versus Orange Cassidy for the AEW All-Atlantic title. Tony Storm versus Serena Deeb versus Britt Baker versus Athena in a four-way match for the interim AEW Women's title. And Claudio Castagnoli versus Chris Jericho for the Ring of Honor World title. So the match card for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite's special event, Grand Slam, for tonight looks like it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it, and I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, I just wanted to come on here for a while and give my review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dark from last night, which was September 20th, 2022. Like I said, it was awesome from start to finish. And with that being said, my name is Austin Honecker, and I will catch your ass down the road. Peace out.